What a fantastic day. Early June in Hampshire, on the banks of the Test, one of the world's greatest chalk streams, greatest trout habitats on earth. And a day, well, you couldn't imagine a more perfect day to be beside a river or on a river. And we're here today to investigate the life, to celebrate the life, the death, the brief life cycle of an insect which is the sort of king and the queen and the prince and the princess among insects on rivers like this. It's called the mayfly for very obvious reasons, because it hatches out in May. And the thing about the mayfly is that it's a phenomenally important food source for trout, also for birds. Swallows love them, ducks love them, and what is fantastic about this insect is, first of all, its size. It's far bigger than any of the other insects that commonly hatch out on these rivers. It hatches out in amazing abundance, and the third thing about it is that it's an amazingly beautiful thing. But we're going to start with its rather humble origins, because the fly emerges from a very much less glamorous creature, a sort of grub-like object that lives in the mud. And in order to do justice to the life cycle of the mayfly, it seems a good idea to start by trying to find some on the bottom. And so without more ado, the system is that you kick your foot backwards and forwards on the riverbed, dislodging whatever creepy crawlies and nutritious food items are to be found there. And of course, when it has, one of the effects of it is that it disturbs this beautifully clear riverbed and turns it into a bit of a cloudy mess. However, in the interests of science, which of course this is, it's entirely justified. So I need to shove my waded boot around with maximum violence. This is where the mayfly larvae spend the first, normally 2 years of their very unexciting lives, sometimes 3, increasingly 1 year, possibly because of something to do with global warming. But they burrow their way into the silt and feed there on minute organisms for, let's say, for the sake of argument, 2 years, and till a very considerable change comes over them. But I think it's time to have a look through this sort of porridge we've managed to extract from the riverbed, and see whether there's any signs of life in it. Heave myself out with the fruits of my labours. It's a sort of grey, sort of gritty porridge that has come out with a few bits of weed and such like, and I'm just going to tip the whole lot out into this white tray, and then we're going to have a sort through and see what we have here. What's tremendous about this, because you get a fantastic idea of the richness of these rivers. The sheer quantity of food life is absolutely fantastic. So we're now going to take out a bit more of this weedy rubbish, and then if you creep a little bit closer, we'll let the sort of mud subside a bit, and we'll start whisking out some of these little creatures and see. And I can see, just looking from here, it is absolutely seething with life. There are mayfly nymphs, a large quantity of freshwater shrimp, which is a staple food source for trout and grayling. There are caddises, almost certainly there will be stoneflies, there will be blue-winged olives, much beloved by fishermen. They hatch out in the evening in high summer and the fish love them. There will be snails, and there'll probably be a few other little objects. And I'm now going to, just with this squirty object, suck out a couple, and let's get some first. So there's so much here. Now this is what we're after. This is what this is all about. That is a fairly small mayfly nymph. It has 3 tails, a cluster of legs at the front. This can move about, and having spent its 2 years in the mud, it feels the urge and it breaks free, and it swims and jerks its way up to the surface, and at that stage it is encased in a shuck, and as it reaches the surface it breaks out of this. Its wings come free, its legs come free. It takes a little bit of time to get ready for flight, and at that stage it is tremendously vulnerable to being eaten by fish. Here in this ice tray is just a sample of the insect life that we have recovered from, or when I say we, I have recovered at great personal inconvenience from the riverbed with my net, a very small area of riverbed. In the ice tray I would think there's probably about 1/4 or 1/5 of all the insects, the larvae that we managed to recover, much of which is still in there, and there's a representative sample here of the things that get trout interested at different times. Now, obviously they can't shove their noses into the mud to pull it out, so they have to wait for these creatures to come out of the mud, start ascending to the surface, which is what most of them do, although in the case of the freshwater shrimps, which are these tiny little round things here, they tend to be clinging onto the weed. So we have shrimp, we have mayfly nymphs down here, we have the nymphs of some of the smaller upwing flies, blue-winged olives, pale wateries and so forth. We have these fantastic caddises looking just like pieces of wood. In fact, they're made out of pieces of wood cemented together, and inside is the caddis, which fishermen refer to as sedges, and they sometimes come out in the evening and skitter across the surface, and if you get enough of them and the fish get on them, then fantastically exciting. But what is fascinating and instructive about this is the phenomenal wealth of food that there is here, the sheer abundance of food. And you know, the experts who go back a long time will tell you that this is nothing compared with how it used to be 30 or 40 years ago, but there is still a lot here, and this is the reason. This abundance of food is the reason why trout and grayling do so well on rivers like the Test, like this river here. If you did what we've just been doing, taking samples on a moorland river or in the Highlands or Exmoor, Dartmoor, somewhere like that, you would find nothing like this quantity of food, and that's why the fish in streams like that they tend to be quite numerous, but they tend to be small. And this is why you get big fish in a river like this. Big fish because lots of food. And I think I'm now going to put them all back in the river to give them a chance to end up in some trout's stomach at some stage. So, cheerio. And that's the end of the science lesson. I think it's high time we went and tried to catch something for a change.